Hello and welcome to Mothers, Sisters, and Daughters Coffee and Tea. I am your
Good.
host, Trina G.
And I'm your host, Lady J. Good morning. Good afternoon to some.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are.
Yes, so glad to have you here with us this wonderful day. We've been experiencing some technical difficulties, but I think we got together. What you think, Trina G?
I think we're getting it together really nicely.
Good. As everyone know, I'm the eyeglass queen.
Oh gosh.
The sunglasses,
Don't make me bring out my stuff now, Mom. Come on now.
the
But
fan.
I need to see though. I have to see. I have to be able to see.
Oh, I'm coming. I'm gonna pull them off. Okay. Hello, people.
Hello, thank you guys for joining us on today. Today, today we will discuss fatherhood, raising sons, and protecting your family during this racial climate. Our mission is bringing enlightenment to the masses of our brown skin, the royalty within our history, and the fight to educate, emancipate, and liberate the minds. How can one understand if we have not been taught?
Exactly. Before we dive into a deeper, let me give you a little history, a little background on Trina G. She is an awesome mother of three sons and one daughter. She's a certified business administrator, has her associate and bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies, where her focus is business and Christian counseling. She also has a master's degree in human services and counseling. She is a life coach, and her business is Pure Angel Life Coaching, where the focus is active and retired military families, couples, those with disabilities. There's nothing too hard for her to conquer. And how do I know this? Because that's my daughter.
Well, thank you, Mom, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Lady J. Lady J is a wonderful mother of five daughters, one son, whom are all 30 and above, which shows you how good she looks. And the apple does not fall far from the tree.
Mm.
Okay. She is also educated with her bachelor's in education, her bachelor's in Christian counseling, and she is pursuing her master's in Christian counseling. She is a motivational speaker, life coach, ordained pastor, but chooses to serve as a prophetess, evangelist, and minister. Lady Jade loves to serve her community outside of the four walls. She is an advocate for those with developmental disabilities, military veterans, and the elderly. To sum it up in one word, she is a phenomenal woman.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, my daughter. Well, if you have any questions, please contact us through the internet section. You can type in questions in the chat. Contact us at Mother, Sisters, and Daughters Coffee and Tea by way of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Leave all comments, and if you have a question, Trina G will get them for you. So at this time,
Let's sip some coffee.
and spill some tea.
Are we ready?
Are we ready, Trina G?
We are
Oh,
definitely ready.
there's my cup. Got to spill
So, while I get this hot cup of coffee, yes,
it.
and Lady J grabs her tea,
Sip.
I want to share a little history with you. Lieutenant Henry Austin Flipper was born in Thomasville, Georgia on March 24th, 1856, into slavery and spent his formative years in Georgia. Following the Civil War, he attended the American Missionary Association schools in his home state. In 1873, Henry became an American soldier in the U.S. Army. He was also the first Black cadet to graduate from the United States Military Academy at West Point, earning a commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. In 1881, Lieutenant Flipper's commanding officer accused him of embezzling funds and of conduct of unbecoming of an officer. He was acquitted of the embezzlement charges. but was found guilty of unbecoming of an officer. On June 30th, 1882, was dismissed from the Army. But even through all the adversity Lieutenant Henry faced, he continued to maintain his innocence throughout his life. He continued to fight to have his conviction reversed, but died in 1940 with no resolve. 1976, his descendants and supporters applied to the Army Board for the correction of military records on behalf of Lieutenant Flipper, and in the end, he received his just due. Even though he was not around to see it, he deserved his name to be cleared, receiving an honorable discharge backdating to June 1882. In 1997, a law firm filed an application of pardon with the Army of the Lieutenant Flipper's behalf. On February 19, 1999, Lieutenant Flipper was pardoned, and the president at the time recognized an error and acknowledged the lifetime accomplishments of this American soldier. Even in all we do, it is important that we make sure we continue to fight for what is right. It is important that we continue to save our name because our name is who we are.
Thank you, Trina G, for that. That was awesome. It's always good to know our history and new history. At this time, I'm going to tell you about the military. And military is close to my heart. I was married to a Marine slash Army, so the Marine Corps is close to my heart. The Marine Corps was established November 10th, 1775, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we thank God for that. Now, I'm going to tell you about a group of men. The history of thousand brave men who served our country through numerous wars and battles have been virtually unknown to most Americans for many years. Though we know about Tuskegee Airmen and the Buffalo Soldiers, most civilians and even in the military do not know the struggles and the success of the Montfort Point Marines. In 1942, Camp Montfort Point was established, the first African American to serve as Marines since the American Revolution. The history of the Montfort Point and brave men who trained there is a testament to the price African Americans had to pay in order to gain acceptance in one of the nation's most respected institutions. While the British promised male slaves freedom during the American Revolution, if their promise support the United States excluded these men. From the battle far back in history, rules were set forth was allowed to fight for and defend the United States in 1792. Congress limited service in the state's militia to free able-bodied white citizens 6 years later. The Secretary of War echoed this declaration, saying no Negro, mulatto, or Indian could enlist in the Navy, Army, or Marines. While the Army and Marines retained their bands, the Navy accepted limited number of black enlisted after 1798 because of the need of men who could endure harsh conditions up at sea. Through the time, free blacks fought with them in the War of 1812, the Battle of New Orleans, the Indian War, and the Spanish-American War, with the U.S. colored troops serving in the Civil War in 1862. During the First World War, 300,000 African Americans served a segregated unit through the Marine Corps, remained a white, enclave as they refused to enlist blacks. It was becoming increasingly difficult for African Americans who wished to give their service to their country to do so. Finally, on June 25th, 1941, allowing President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Orders 8802, allowing constitutional and racial segregation, being banned from receiving government contracts or government agencies, from discrimination. And this included the Marine Corps. We salute our soldiers, the Marines, the Marines that serve with the United States Marine Corps. And we do know in November 10th, we'll be celebrating the Marine Corps birthday. We salute you, all Marines. Thank you for your service.
Amazing, amazing. And last but not least, we will talk about Henry Ossawa Tanner, born June 21st, 1859. He was an American artist and the first Black American painter to gain international acclaim. Tanner moved to Paris, France in 1891 to study and continue to live there after being accepted into French artistic circles. His painting entitled Daniel in the Lion's Den was accepted into 1896 Salon, the official art exhibition of the Académie des Beaux-Arts in Paris. After his own self-study in art as a young man, Tanner enrolled in 1879 at the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. The only Black student, he became a favorite of the painter Thomas Eakins, who had recently begun teaching there. Tanner made other connections among artists, including Robert Henry. In the late 1890s, he was sponsored for a trip to Jerusalem by Rodman Wanamaker, who was impressed by his paintings of biblical themes. That, you all, is Henry Ossawa Tanner.
Just a side note, Katrina, could you hear me speaking on the Marine Corps?
Yes.
Okay, it just said my mic was muted. Now, grab your coffee and your teacups. Join us as we welcome our guests, because we just did a little sip some coffee and we just spilled some historical tea. Mm-hmm. Now, welcome as our guests to Mother, Sister, Daughter, Coffee and Tea.
Our first guest we're going to introduce is Eugene Griffin. Eugene is a 20-year retired disabled Army veteran. He is married to a wonderful woman. That's me. He has 4 children, 3 men, and 1 young woman. He has over 7 deployments, ranging from peacekeeping to combat deployments. He was raised with strong West Indian values from his grandmother and family. Eugene has always wanted to be a doctor, but ended up joining the Army as a nurse. And he still has the passion and fire for medicine. You all welcome my husband, no other than Eugene Griffin.
Woohoo! Hi, Eugene.
Hey.
Got your coffee?
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me great?
Good.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good to have you this morning.
You can hear me.
And then our next guest, his name is Andre Solta. Andre was born and raised in Jamaica and moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the age of 12. Andre joined the military at 17 years old and retired last year, 20 years later. He is married to his wife, Melissa, and they have 3 precious cargo, Caitlin, Cayenne, and Keandre. The military took Andre and his family to many interesting places, and then they finally settled in Ruskin, Florida. Welcome, Andre Solta.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone.
Good to have you.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. As you all can see, so far, this is an all-male guest. And my next guest is Verzel James. He is a graphic artist. His 13-year experience has led him to work in several different areas of the graphic art field: books, magazines, advertising, illustration. He more recently has been in textbook publication and design, as well as teaching cartoon, animation, and basic drawing to children and adults for nearly 4 years. He is also a general partner of Jam Graphic and Publishing and double as a publisher. Jam was founded in October of 1990. Jam's main function has been to develop a line of comics that cover a broad spectrum of life. Its main goal is to concentrate on the unique minority experience. In January of 1991, Jam published The Adventure, The Adventure with the E comic. The book combined on adventure comic stories with educational material. Mr. James was born in Harvey, Illinois, May of 1961. He attended Thornton High School in Harvey and received his bachelor's degree in design communications from the School of Art Institution of Chicago after attending Central College in Pella, Iowa. For 3 years at Central, he studied fine art while minoring in business. His hobbies are reading, fishing, playing basketball. His fascination with reading has led to a desire to write. His writes mainly comic book stories. He's not only write comic books, but draws them as well. The Reaper is his first creation and spearheaded a small line of comics being produced by Jam Graphics. Let's welcome Mr. Verzel James, none other than my brother-in-law.
Hello out there, you guys. Thanks for all of that. That was pretty long. It took a lot of time to get through that. I don't know if I'm worthy of all of that. My video is not working correctly. So you're probably just seeing my avatar and hearing my voice, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, thanks for all of that, and let's just get going. Like I said, I'm not sure I'm worthy of all of that, but I am trying to cause some good trouble. So
okay, good. That's what we're here for. We want to let the Facebook and all the social media know this is an all male guest. So
yes,
come on, let's support our men.
Definitely have to support our men.
Okay, let's go, Trina G.
Okay, now the reason why we have this all male wonderful cast is because we want to talk about fatherhood and how it is with them raising their sons and having to protect their family all at the same time while dealing with this racial climate that we are in. Absolutely. So we'll go to our first question. Now we'll ask, this can be the question for all men, but we'll just go one by one. Eugene, is there a difference in how you were raised and how you're raising your sons? And if so, what are the differences?
Eugene, could he hear you?
Hear me?
There's definitely a difference. You can hear me?
No, we can't. I can't hear you.
You're just going in and out. Now we can.
Yeah, there's a little bit delay, so I'm waiting for you to ask the question so then I can answer because there's a slight delay. You can hear me fine, right?
Yes. Okay, the question again, Trina G?
Okay, so there is a difference.
There's some technical difficulty on his end.
Yeah, we're definitely having technical difficulties.
Well, let's go to the same question.
Yeah, Andre, answer it, and then we're going to get Eugene's difficulties together.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
yes.
No technical difficulty?
No.
All right. I don't know. Maybe it's because I upgraded my internet.
Nice.
No shots fired. No shots fired. No shots fired.
Shots fired.
Okay.
No, but absolutely. There's a difference. Growing up, I'm not going to give away my age. Be quite true. There's a lot that I didn't have to worry about growing up. That I have to worry about now for my son. For example, a very simple thing of of just leaving the house, period. I have to harp on my son, hey, make sure you have your wallet with your ID card in it. 'Cause that's super important. I didn't have to worry about an ID card until I got my driver's license, 16, 17 years old.
Absolutely.
I didn't have to worry about identification. Now, as a young black man stepping out into the streets, you have to have identification. The military allow children to start having identification cards, I want to say 12 or 13. And right at that moment, I made sure he has his ID card. And, I have to pound it in his head. Keep it with you when you leave the house. Keep it with you when you leave the house. And, he's young. He's going to forget it, but I always try to teach him the importance of make sure you have that with you. And that's just a super simple thing nowadays that I didn't have to worry about when I was growing up. I didn't have to worry about that. Another thing is um, just walking on the street and being safe.
Absolutely.
And yes, it was an issue back in the days, but it wasn't. It's not as prominent as it is now. Back in the days, if you're walking around with a new pair of Air Force Ones or a new pair of Jordans, yeah, you have to. You might get beat up and get it stolen. But at least you walk away with your life. You know,
Absolutely.
nowadays it's not like that. They're going to take your life and take your shoes, and that's just crazy to me. Over something that a family has worked so hard to provide for their kid, um, that everybody else just see it, want it, take it. No one is willing to work for anything nowadays. They want it now and they want it fast, and they
Right.
don't want to put the work in to get it. Um, and if somebody else have it and they have an opportunity to take it, they're going to go out and take it. So those are just two simple examples of how much times have changed. Um, you know, raising a young son in these times is definitely, I know, more stressful than my parents had it because they didn't have to worry about most of that stuff. So that's just a quick snippet of the two big examples that I could just two simple examples I could just throw out there.
My question, I'm sorry. My question is for Brazil. Being that you're somewhat the older one in the group, what do you find the difference in being raised in the civilian world, raising African American young men, and there's the military world? What do you think is the difference, or is there a difference?
Okay.
Um, Actually, there really is no difference as far as I'm concerned because it all requires discipline.
Hmm.
Okay, so the military gives you certain aspects of discipline that you can carry on throughout your life. The way that I tried to raise my guys is that they were always involved in sports. Okay, and the thing about me is that I wound up coaching them in several sports, and so that creates a whole different relationship. But at the same time, it requires discipline. And the things that Andre was saying, telling your kids, hey, take your wallet, take this, take that, that's a form of discipline.
Hmm.
And so that to me is the most important thing is living your life in a disciplined kind of way. Um, Also not being hypocritical. So we raised our kids to not be hypocrites. And so there were certain things that we had to tell them that were true in order for us to not look like hypocrites, but that establishes a better relationship all the way around. So that's helped a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um,
Definitely.
Eugene, can you hear us? Okay. The same question. If you did he have the question?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Is it better?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. It's much better. How has it been raising
Uh,
your sons in the
okay, as long as
military
you can
and
hear me.
being civilian?
I think the difference is being a veteran and raising my sons and them traveling around. They've got to experience more than the average person would have got to experience, and as far as this culture and just different ways. So it's they have a sense of there's a comfort, there's a barrier. It's there for them, and they to some extent they don't realize how fortunate they are until they're around children who aren't, their parents aren't military, and their parents just work at whatever job, or it's different. And I think it's different because when you're in the military, there really is a um, kind of a mentality that you have to get along no matter what you look like, no matter how you speak. So I think it is a difference, and I do think it's a shock. You know, now that I've retired, that my children are kind of in the place where it's still diverse, but it's kind of like the children whose parents aren't military, who haven't been around that kind of life. You know, you can kind of tell those children, you can kind of those households, and because those children they're totally different. You know,
Absolutely.
they react and respond different to things.
Absolutely. I know as a mother of one son that was raised in the military, when when we were out of the military, it was a different world for him. And things that we wasn't concerned about being on the military institute on the base or in the
Hmm.
city. When he became a civilian son, it was way different. It was really scary for him. And so the difference, it was more of, staying on him. And he was a teenager when his dad got out. He was older, and it was still like at 19, he's in college and didn't have an ID card, So I found the difference was, he was in this safe place all his life, and then all of a sudden this big old world he's coming into, and he has different men, young men coming towards him, the gangs, and now he's introduced to a lot of different things that he didn't have in the military. So I totally agree, with a lot of things. Katrina G, next question.
Next question
Yes.
is, what lesson and advice would did you receive from your fathers or the men in your life?
Brazil.
Actually, nothing. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that I've pretty much always been kind of person to make my own decisions and go my own way and that sort of thing. Um, but no one ever told me, hey, son, this is how you need to approach what you got to do to be successful or whatever you want to do in life. Now, I did have, father figures like my grandfather played a big role in my life, but it was always based on me asking questions and them telling me the truth about what I asked. And so that's what I appreciate most. But never did somebody just like sit me down on their lap and go, hey, this is what you got to do. This is how you have to do it. I've always made my own decisions, and then I've been respected for those decisions. So that's basically it.
Okay. Andre.
I think I have to unmute here. Can you
Be
hear me now?
ready. Be ready. What you doing? What you doing?
I'm actually trying to respond to a question or a comment because I shared the link, so there's folks on there.
Well,
Oh, okay.
Just
thank
saying.
you. Thank you. But
I mean,
continue.
if you,
So,
I'm just saying,
Thank you.
just saying.
well, who was your example? What was it like? Did your father play a big part in your life,
All
teaching?
right, so I grew up, with my father in the United States most of my life, and I'm in Jamaica most of my life, as far as that goes. I did move to the States and live with my father for about 5 years before I joined the military. And, during that 5 years, absolutely, there was guidance and everything else. It was a culture shock for me, leaving Jamaica and come to the United States at that young age. I didn't know a lot of things. I mean, football. Football, simple thing, right? In America, we run around with helmets and tackle each other. In Jamaica, we use our feet. That's why it's called
Right.
football. So it was a big difference coming from there to here. Um, so there was a lot of guidance and a lot of sit down talks of what to expect in the United States. This is different there. It's a bit different here, so on and so forth. So that type of guidance was definitely there. As far as being a man on my own, the military put that, instilled that discipline in me, and they're the ones that guided me in that sense. Joining the military at 17, I had to get my father's blessing and everything else. And once I left home, yes, he still tried to, be there and do what he needed to do as a father. But definitely, I was fortunate to fall under some great leadership when I was in the military. There's a lot of folks that join the military and have some very poor leadership and put a bad taste in their mouth. And then there's the other side that there's a lot of folks that have some great leadership. And I was fortunate to have damn near all great leadership. Excuse my language, but and some of them I still talk to today. So that's where I got my mentorship from and everything else. And then I pick and choose from each of these great leaders,
Hmm.
what traits, and how I wanted to move forward with my life. And I think I did a pretty good job of selecting the traits that I wanted to bring into my bubble. Um, and then try to pass it along to my son. Everything I say isn't always right. So, you take what I say and fact check it. I'd love for you to fact check it,
Hmm.
because as we get older, we tend to stick to our old ways, and now things have changed.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't work the same way it did 10 years ago, the way it's working today. So please, I tell him, hey, fact check it. If you see it in a different light, two sided of the coin is always great. Make sure you see it from the other perspective, before you make a drastic decision. So, uh, um, instilling discipline and getting discipline instilled me. Yes, my father played the role when I was at home, and then my leadership in the military played the other part of it.
And oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you, Eugene. What about you? Did you have a father figure in your life that taught you and gave you some guidance and instruction about being a man, how to be a man and rearing?
Yes, I had a father figure, of course, father, and uncles and grandfather, great grandfather. They were all in my life, and what I saw from the men in my life was a lot of hard work. Um, and no matter what job you had, to be the best at that job. It didn't matter if you were mopping the floor, you'd be the best floor mopper you can be, per se. And so I never, I saw the men in my life do a lot of things that were very different now. Like we never, for instance, we never ate a lot of the products out of grocery store. Everything, as far as like vegetables, fruit, was grown, I will say, for the most part, out of a garden. They check the garden. They cut the grass. They manage the garden. They prune the trees. That's the kind of men I saw in my life. Very hardworking men, and very disciplined. Like the responsibility of, like Andre said, having your wallet and on you for identifications, because I think everybody in here, as far as the men, even the women, I grew up in a time, and you grew up in a time that when you went certain places, the law enforcement or certain people could you could have for adverse effects if you couldn't prove who you were. So I try to instill that in my sons now. It's a little harder because I think that where I grew up and how I grew up, it was a little, well, a lot more rough. It was rough. And how my children grow up, they've grown up in a deed, restricted community that's in the suburbs, and they don't have to see the graffiti on the walls or the crack pipes on the grounds, or some of the common things I had to grow up seeing, and just had to push through. So uh, yeah, I would say most of the men in my life, it was the hard work that I saw that wanted me to. They made me want to be the man they were and better. I never saw a man in my house, or in my family, I should say, that didn't work hard. Everybody worked hard.
So it's safe to say that it really does take a village of men to raise the sons today. Not just one, it
Yes.
take a village of men to raise sons today. And I think that's very important. I have another question as well. My question is, how, when you first was becoming fathers of sons, you might have to go back a couple of years, Uncle Verzel and everyone, anybody can jump in. When you first laid eyes on that son, what was your thought?
Wow, that's a part of me, Yep.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. For me, it was two girls first, and then bam, here's my son, and I was like,
Every,
I
and
think
and and and, and now 15 years later, I'm like, Dang it, boy. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, yeah. I
I
think.
think it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I
No.
was gonna say. I was gonna say. I think that every man, when they get a son, for my in my eyes, that when they get that son, like there's a moment that you have as a father. You're proud. There's nothing like having a child, but when you get that son, it's like, yeah, that's me. For me, I got two sons and then a daughter last, and then another son. So it was for me, the moment was like, wow, that's me. And I thought in my head, I said, now I have to, with any child, I have to. There's protect mode, you know,
Mhm.
and then there's that protect mode, but then there's a part of me that says, okay, I have to protect you, but I have to also make you tough, and I have to make you sturdy, and I have to make you, make have you hopefully make great decisions in life, you know, and that's what I thought.
Oh, okay. Now the question,
Yeah,
Katrina,
that's good. No,
Trina
I
G.
was, I'm just gonna go just tap into something Eugene said because it was about protecting, your sons and you're showing them those things. Now, with under the protection realm, because the climate we live in today, it's like crucial for us to make sure our children know how to protect themselves, but also our young men as well. But within that protection, I know with the military background and families, I'm sure other men deal with it. But we believe in strongly protecting yourself at all costs. And here in Florida, we're able to do so, especially within your home. We have that right, to carry a weapon to protect yourself in the home. But then, Eugene has that right, and Andre has that right to do so outside the home. So, what would you tell your sons when it comes to having to think about, okay, I'm on my own, I'm older, how do I implement this in my life, being that having a weapon is not just a small thing. It's very important to know how to do those things, but in the right manner, because a lot of people just see it as what they see on TV and things like that versus the real life of the situation and the responsibility. So what is it that you guys would tell people about, because you have some people that choose not to, but then you have some that are fine with that. So what will you guys tell your sons or other people's sons about that?
Uh, well, I'll go real quick. I tell my if I had to tell the people, sons or even my own sons, um, even though we may have whatever caliber weapon we may carry, and we can legally do it, and we have the right to bear the arms. Use this weapon first before you have to resort to the weapon on your hip. And the reason I say that is because it's easy for me to train, my to posture position with a weapon. All of them know how to use a pistol or a firearm. They know how to, safely, take that firearm and put it on, in a safe position. And they know the responsibilities of it. They know that it takes lives. But as a black man, what I would say is, and it's going to be kind of hard for a lot of people to hear or maybe want to maybe agree with. I think that you have to arm yourself if you are legally able to, and you have that right to bear an arm. I think there's nothing wrong with it because white America is going to sure arm themselves, and we live in a time that is very unique. But not only just legally arm yourself in the manner of just having weapon, arm yourself here. Uh,
Absolutely.
just don't
Absolutely.
wiki don't yeah don't wiki everything. Wikipedia and just technology has taken it has disabled us in a certain way to say, oh well, I can just go on wiki and this is the truth. No, when you research something, you just don't go to one place or two places. You have to really dig deep in there and pull as many things out because you start to find that the internet was designed and it was built in an algorithm to when you type something in give you like the common since, or the first common trend in answers, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not always right. You have to be able to say, okay, well, this is what this said. Well, let me go over here and see what this says. View public records. Get books, and people don't. I know people don't do libraries and books anymore. Start pulling information from way back public records, especially when you want to find out about something, because you'll start to find out that the internet is as great as a tool it is. Sometimes it can also be a hindrance, because I think that we allow the system of technology to just give us a false hope instead of really researching it more. It's like Andre said earlier, check the checker. Just don't listen to what I say and take it as what its gold. Check me and check this and check that, because you may come back and say, hey, my sons may come back and say, hey, dad, what you told me about this is just half true. And I did more information, and I found out that this and this and this is also a contributing factor to this. So you really have to do your due diligence, and I think that you have to research.
I
Research.
think education, when you talk about the caring, I think education is key in anything. You have
Yes.
to educate. The most powerful tool in America is education. And I know Verzel will agree with me. If our young men are educated on any level, it brings about some freedoms.
Um, I was driving down the street in Chicago, and I saw a guy wearing a T-shirt that said "Most dangerous weapon: an educated black man." Okay,
Absolutely.
so you have to educate yourself. If you're talking about self defense and self protection, you have to educate yourself that way. But the most important thing, in order to walk with your head high, is educate yourself to understand what's going on in the system and how the system
Absolutely.
came about,
Yes.
and how if you understand your history, that you can walk around proud, and that's your weapon. And look
Yes.
people in the eye, and
Yes.
and
Yes.
don't be afraid to correct people. I have a friend. They're movie producers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll try to make this story short. But once we were having a barbecue cookout at their house, and these guys are movie producers, right? And they had a bonfire, and one guy was a white man, and he was couldn't get this fire started, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I tried to explain to him, no, this is how you start a bonfire. And he just would not listen to me, would not listen to me. And then the owner of the house came in and go, hey, listen to him. This is what he told you. But this guy would not, didn't think that I had the knowledge to tell him how to light this fire, right? So it took a white man to tell him, listen to him to tell you how to start that fire, right? And that's
Right.
crazy. But
It,
his wife came to me one day. She goes, I don't know how you can talk to where I come from. She's from Kentucky. We don't, black people don't talk to white people that way. But I'm like, hey, if I have knowledge and I'm trying to help you, that's what it's all about. It's not about white or black, but there's those schisms out there that know because you're black, you don't know what you're talking about. But if you're
absolutely.
educated, you can tell anybody anything. They gonna listen or they not. Case in point, my youngest son, he was a teenager, and he said something to me, and I told him, I go, hey, Ethan, this and that and the other. And he goes, I don't believe you. And I look at him, I go, you know what? I'm your dad. I love you. Why would I tell you something that's going to hurt you? And he
Mm-hmm.
looked at me, and he's never questioned anything that I've said ever since then. Never questioned me since then. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that brings up another question. How do you guys feel about colorism? You know, I have three grandsons that are very fair complected, and I have that one grandson that is dark complected. In our own neighborhoods, we find that colorism is such a big thing, and with the climate, with the what's going on with police officers and the black men in this country, what do you find in our culture that is harming our black young men when it comes to colorism? Anyone want to answer?
Mm.
Um, for me, colorism wasn't a thing until I was 12 years old in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
seems to be the trend, because I've met in the military multiple other black men, um, or even Asian, that that live in diverse communities where they're from, and it was never an issue. And it was the same for me. You know, growing up in Jamaica, there were Asians, there were Caucasians that were born and raised in Jamaica, and all we saw were Jamaicans. Um,
Yeah.
and it wasn't an issue for me. And then I came to the United States and I went to school. And when I went to school, that's where I first experienced all of that. It was just so different the way that certain kids spoke to the teacher and the punishments that were given to certain kids of different races in the school. And that's where I realized I'm like, holy smokes, this is crazy. So the same crime, and this is as a teenager in school, the same crime now is given three different punishments. And I'm like, that's not right. You know, if I talk to the teacher in a certain way, and I get a 5 day suspension, but this guy talked to the teacher even in a more vulgar manner, and he gets a 2 day suspension. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't even call you out your name, and I'm getting a 5 day suspension, and he called you and your mom and grandma a different name, and he's getting a 2 day suspension. And that's where I realized I'm like, yep, this isn't right. There's something different about the United States of America. And, I really wish that the entire United States can just come together. The first word, united. Let's just unite. I don't care about your skin color. It's all about your values. What can you bring to the table? If
It's
it's
about
if
the
it's
truth.
yeah, if it's below what in the military, I learned from the lowest rank. I mean, I retired an officer, and I was enlisted before. And even as an officer, I'm learning from enlisted. And I'm not talking about enlisted like an E8, E9, for those of you that know military talk. Those are high ranking enlisted. I'm talking about the privates. I'm talking
Absolutely.
about, because, okay, I've been in 16 years, and this private is coming in fresh from boot camp. Guess what? This private has more technological knowledge than I do, because that's how he or she grew up, in a technological world. Shoot, I was tink, 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 and they went to boot camp already doing this. And they're talking to this. I mean, I'm learning something new. I'm like, I have my phone. I'm like this, and I'm like, how do I change my home screen? And they're like, look at this idiot. And it's just like I'm learning something new, because it's a new age, times have changed, and so on and so forth. So, when it comes to colorism, for me, that was my first time experiencing it. And from then on, I really like to do this and use this and use this, because I learn a lot more by observing and listening than I do speaking. Especially when I first came to the States and didn't know what the heck was going on around me, and I carried that throughout my military career. I would observe and observe and observe, and then when I finally say something, everyone's like, whoa, you had an opinion, you had a voice on this? Yes. But now my opinion and my voice on it, my spectrum is now a bigger spectrum, because I've observed a lot that was going on, instead of
Right.
jumping in right at the beginning, where my view would have been narrow and just blinders. I waited until I got a better understanding of the bigger picture before I throw my two cents in there. Um, I'm not super educated, but by doing that, I seem like I was super educated. So um, that's definitely, that's the way that I dealt with that. And teaching my son the same thing, and he likes to boom, 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 and I'm like, observe, listen, observe, listen, and then speak. You know, so that's one thing right now I'm working on with him, especially in this climate and culture that's happening right now. He's got to use those eyes and ears first. So.
Verzel, being the older of it, and you have
Ooh,
seen
she
a
keeps
lot.
saying that. She keeps saying
Being
that.
I'm an old guy.
I would try to nip. She keeps saying that.
I know.
You know what?
I know my brother-in-law was young. He looks good. He looks good. Let me tell you now. He looks good. He looks good. But I will say, older is not a bad thing. You know,
My
it's
mom used to say, if you don't live to get old, you die young. I'd rather keep living
there you go.
as long as I'm healthy. Yep.
But I love him. I've always loved him because even though he wasn't the elder son, he always seemed to be the oldest son.
That's really true. It's
He
really
really
true.
was. He wasn't the eldest son, and I'm married one older than him, but he wasn't the eldest. But he always had the wisdom and this knowledge, as if I am the oldest son. And
That's
so,
because I learned from watching my older brothers. If I didn't learn from watching them, yeah, that's the truth. It's the truth.
Yep.
So it's like if I see you fall in the hole, why would I follow you and do the same thing? Doesn't make sense.
right.
Same hole, same deep. It hurts.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, being that, raising sons, I couldn't imagine. I thank God I'm a woman. Thank you. Because raising sons, I hear women all the time. We have some great women that have raised their sons. Um, but I always found that was always a male figure in that son's life
Somewhere, yeah.
somewhere. So I thank God for that. And we have fathers that are single fathers that are raising sons and daughters. And I respect them so. But being that you all are raising these sons, what advice would you give a new father raising a son in this time, in this climate, with the racial tension, voting, all this stuff is going on? What advice would you give to those fathers?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is, regardless of the situations, do not be a hypocrite. Always just and the other part of that is just be honest and be willing to speak the truth. You know,
Absolutely.
because if you don't, that's going to come back to haunt you later.
Right.
So it might be a little bit more painful to, like I said, to speak the truth and not be a hypocrite. But man, it pays off, because it pays off when people come to you and they go, "Man, your son is such a great person." So my thing is like, it's not what you say about your kids; it's what other people say about your kids. That lets you know that you've done a great job or you're doing a great job. And to this day, I've never had anyone come to me and go, "Man, your son is an asshole." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They always
Right.
speak good things. And so you put good things in, hopefully you get good things
Good
out.
things out.
Now, that's not
Absolutely.
always true, because there's just some bad people out there. But
Right.
at the same time, you get in, you get out what you put in.
Absolutely.
And sometimes these young men, they're a product of their environment. I mean, right now,
Yep.
I have I could definitely say a good friend now. At the time, he was a young Marine that came in, and I was his leadership, and he was on a bad path, and I believe he was basically in that mentality of his environment. He let his environment consume him, and I had to go knock on his door. I didn't care. I had to go knock on his door. Sat down. I spoke with him and his household, meaning his mom, and I believe his sister was living there at the same time. And I sat down and had a conversation with them. And I said, "Look, welcome to the military. All of you are now military,
You
to
got that
include
right.
mommy and sister, and you're now military. Welcome to the military.
That's
I
right.
need you guys to kick him in the butt so that he can stay the path that he signed the dotted line for." Because you know a lot of young persons come into the military life, and they look at it as, oh, it's just another job. It's Burger King, it's McDonald's, I could just quit. No. If you quit a certain way, that is
No.
the only places those are the only places you'll be able to work, is Burger King and McDonald's. Because if you quit a certain way in the military, federal, state jobs, whatever the case is, that's gone for life. You know, and he turned around. Right now, he turned around. He's married. He has kids. He's getting promoted.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking to make this a career. And I think if I didn't step in, and I'm not saying that he had other leaders that were bad. I just took the initiative and go knock at his door, and I stepped in, and to this day, he's like, "Thank you for that. Thank you for that." It wasn't my son. Yes, he was put under my charge, and because he was put under my charge, I looked at him as, "Hey, he's my brother. I'm gonna go
Right.
take care of him."
Right.
And that mentality of just bonding, brotherhood, no matter the color, and just try to be positive, and try to help someone out, and push them forward instead of stepping on them. I think that will go a long way. And there's a lot of young folks that use their environment as an excuse to why they act a certain way. Don't be the product of your environment. Be
Absolutely.
that exception. Step out of that mentality. and show others that, hey, we can break that cycle of, oh, because my brother did this and this, I'm going to follow in that path. No, you don't have to.
Right.
Choose a
Right.
different path.
Eugene, and
So
what advice would you
yeah,
give a young father?
a young father. Period. If we're not talking about color barriers, we're talking about white, black, Indian, whatever, Asian. Uh, Being in America, I will tell them that skin color matters because we're visual species. And the reason it matters, and you can't say I don't see skin colors because America is a very unique place. America. I grew up very much like Andre, and my house was Jamaica. Like everything in my house was Jamaica. When I went outside, I could do certain things, but I can't bring certain things. There were certain things I didn't bring back into my house, the slang and the talk and all that. It wasn't allowed by my mother and father. Uh, and so my family, I grew up in a very tight knit family, very West Indian family, very centered around culture and just the way we do things. But I started to realize as I started getting older, and like unlike Andre, that there were certain things with colorism that it was kind of like, oh wow, I never noticed this until this. We had a girl that lived down the street that was Italian, and her name was Dana. And to this day, I never forget. My parents. It was really hot day in Jersey, because that's where I kind of mostly grew up. And my parents got this swimming pool thing, and we were out there, and they didn't want us going to the local swimming pool because it was just a lot of riffraff there and a lot of bad stuff in a public outdoor swimming pool. And Dana's walking down the street, and I said, "Hey, you wanna come swim with us?" And she looked at me and she said, "I'm gonna ask my mom." And I said, "Great," because I always saw her. This when I was like, probably like 11, 10, 11. And then she comes back and she said, "I can't." And I said, "Why not?" She said, "My mother says, I can't swim with Negroes." And I looked at my mom and I was like, "What's a Negro?" Because I didn't
Woo!
know.
Mm,
I was
mm,
clueless
mm.
because in my house that I was like, I knew Negro in Spanish where it was black, but I didn't really understand why she was saying like, what's a Negro? And because like Dre said, in Jamaica you see a little bit of everybody, and yeah, you might see the Asian person. We call him the Chichi man, But the thing is, we're not saying it in a derogatory way. That's just like because I see people in my family, like I have people in my family, my cousins that their dad is Chinese and their mom is Indian or whatever. So Jamaica's a melting pot of a lot of different people, but the difference is, I think, the culture. And America has to realize, and I think especially in today's climate, America's become less of a white nation. It's turned more into a multiracial nation, and they have to realize America's just America. When I was deployed, whether it was combat or whether it was peacekeeping, they didn't see me as like, oh, look at this black guy. They didn't see my soldiers. Look at that white guy. They saw me as American. It didn't matter if I was born here or not. I had the uniform on. I had the flag on, and I was charging forward the mission that the army gave me at the time. They saw me as American. They would take me out as quick as they take, the white guy out or the Asian guy out or the Mexican guy. They didn't care. They just saw me as American. And I think that the military, a lot of ways that I see the military, I kind of wish that we as a country could really replicate some of that, and just seeing people as people and taking care of business as business. And when you see something needs to be taken care of, you should not look at color. But unfortunately, when you have less than 1% of the country that serves, you have a large majority of the country that they kind of live in this bubble per se.
This bubble,
Especially
yes.
if you never leave your city, if you never leave your not only your city, your state, if you never leave not only your city, your state, but your country. Like, I've done all of these. I've been to different countries. I've been to different states, different cities. I said, well, I want to see more than just where I grew up and my culture and my family. I want to see more and be exposed to that. And that was how I think I was. Practicing medicine, I guess, it kind of helped me too, because you don't in a sense you see a person. But to the young fathers, I definitely would say, um, to teach your son or your daughters, your children's period core values and core values, that you see that are right, and always understand the right, not the wrong. Because everybody may say this is right, but the core values, the core principle values of life, no stealing, treat everybody as you expect to be treated. Just the simple things that you can look at a person and say, okay, this person is not, a thief. This person is not, a liar. You have to teach them core values, and I think that really matters more than anything.
Now, before we go, I want to give. I want to piggyback off of something Andre said. When I remember when I married my late husband, and we went to the office to sign papers, the CO, the first thing the CO said, asked my husband, "Who told you you could have a wife?" We we didn't issue her. We didn't issue her to you. You know. I didn't issue her, and so it is. It is a family thing. I thank God for that. But before we really go, I wanted to be able to give Verzel a chance to give a shout out to his product that he has. Besides his comic book, he has another little thing that he does on the side, and he
Right.
hasn't sent me any.
I know, right? I'm mad. I'm mad.
Okay,
Hey,
wait a minute.
before
That's a sip,
before
sip, sip, sip.
before I plug that, um, I wanted to say something about the whole colorism thing,
Okay,
and part of that is how people see themselves.
come on now.
Okay, and a case in point, last year about this time, I go to the gym to play basketball, and there are black people, there are white people there, and then as everybody's warming up, and then one guy comes into the gym, he looks at the other guy says, "What up, light skin?" Now they're both black guys, but they go, and that freaked me out. If to this day that freaked me out. What up, light skin? And I'm like, what the hell that got to do with anything?
Well,
or
I'm like,
or
I
or
just
that ism of,
I
oh,
never heard
okay,
that.
that guy's Caucasian, he can't play, or oh, that guy's black, he can play, and that ism
right.
is just
It's
crass.
crazy. It's
What up,
crazy.
light
Yeah.
skin?
What up, light skin? I'm not lying. And
That
it
but
freaked me out. I'm just like,
it's
what?
but
freaking me out right now.
yeah, but you know where that comes from, right?
What
That
up,
comes
light
from,
skin?
history.
Oh
What?
That
yeah.
comes
Oh
from
yeah.
history and just us, yeah, from us watching us be oppressed and watching this. This goes all the way back years into slavery,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Without
where
a
it
doubt.
comes from. And unfortunately, it's a lot of self hate, and because I've dealt with that. I've dealt with, hey pretty boy, hey light skin, hey curly head boy, hey all kind of stuff. So, and it comes
Right.
from self hate from
Yeah.
people see you a certain way. Even my children, like Lady J said, her grandchildren, they deal the same thing. My daughter deals with it a lot. My
Right.
son is in the military. He deals with it. My daughter gets called Puerto Rican, and she gets called Indian. She gets called all kind of things, and then when she says, "Well, I'm black," people don't like her because she's like, well, "You're not black because black people don't look like
Right.
black people look like everything."
Right.
Yes.
Look. If you
Yeah.
look at just all
Yeah.
of us, we
Yes.
all look different.
Yes.
And we are
Yes.
black people are very unique, and we
Very.
look like everything. You can see black people that look Asian. You see black
Right.
people that you see them, you're like, people look at me and they always think I'm from the Middle East. So I think that
I
Yeah.
think it's the beard, man.
Right.
That
black
I
people
was
beard.
wondering that.
well,
That
my
beard. That
family's
beard.
they're in that part of the region, India and Ethiopia. So my culture is from that part.
Right.
But
Right.
I agree with you when you said light skin because I've dealt with that. And
Uh-huh.
then our youngest son has dealt directly with that, where
Yes.
Mm.
he was in middle school and his siblings were in high school and they would go to pick him up, and then my oldest son's there and the principal's like, "Who is that?" He's like, "That's my brother." And the principal looks at him and says, "Blood brother?" Because his oldest brother is
Right.
fair skinned and he's dark. and,
Yes.
and and he's like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "Why? What's the problem?" And the principal just like, it was one of those things. It was kind of like when you hear something like that as a parent, and of course the principal was white. The principal,
Right.
for him to say that, and when we went and talked to him about it, and he saw the whole family, he was like, "Oh, okay."
Messed him up.
And it shouldn't take that.
Yes,
Yeah, it
it does
shouldn't take
not.
that.
But
But unfortunately, we live in not only a country but a world, but more of a country because America is very unique. When you start
Yeah.
going to like the places out like Japan and Korea and
Korea,
Germany
yeah.
and all these places, they even look at you different too. Like if me and Andre went to Japan, he's more of the hot commodity than I am. Why? Because he has darker skin, and they're
It's
like, wow,
dark. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
because I've been there before, and it's so weird. But the thing is, they kind of treat you. You're like, well, you talk like you're American, so you're American. They don't care if you're white or black or they're just like America's America.
Right.
But there's kind of a notion that I think America puts out to the rest of the world that you can kind of see that says, well, if you're lighter, you're better, and if you're darker, you must be more sinister and evil, and that's not
Sinister.
true.
Right.
I know some of the lightest skinned guys I grew up with, and those guys are locked up in
But
prison.
that comes from that mentality of lighter is better. Even
Yeah.
growing up in the 60s and 70s, I'm dating myself, but growing up in the 70s as a teenager and then born, growing up in the 60s, the light skinned girls versus this, and the girls always wanted the light skinned guy with what they call good hair. All hair is good. Black people got all kinds of hair and it's good.
Yes.
Whether you
So
buy it or whether you're growing, it's good.
Yes.
But there was always that thing. The light skinned guy, the dark skinned guy couldn't get the girl, because all the girls wanted the light skinned guy. But I think if we just, like you said, teach our sons, no matter the color, the shade of their blackness, they are all strong
Yes.
and powerful and love themselves.
Yes.
Because, like you said, we come in all kinds of shades. But I don't care what color you are. You better get your education. Be educated with your darkness.
Yes.
Be educated with your lightness. Be educated with the in between. Because there's always someone out there. No, we're growing up in a time now. Women are they trying to figure it out. Who I'm gonna marry, light, dark, it doesn't matter. If he treats you right, he gonna take care of you, treat you like the queen you are. If he dark or whether he's light, it shouldn't matter on that part.
right.
And so we have. Go ahead, Brazil.
Well, you want me to talk about the product now? I have a line of hot sauces called All Sauce, and it's AWE-SAUCE.com, allsauce.com. And you can go and check out the site. Let me know what you think of it. I have a suite of 9 hot sauces. I have a hot sauce for everybody. And the brand is starting to grow and starting to get, more recognition out there, and people really like them. So that's my other thing that I do. So
And you said
Right.
all sauce, AWE hyphen what else?
SAUCE.com. So it's sauce. Allsauce.com. And just been trying to grow the brand, and it seems to work. It seems to be working. So
That's right. We as a people got to build our brand. We
have to, and we have to help each other.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to
Yeah.
help each other.
Ownership
Andre,
is
there a plug you want to put in?
Ooh, yeah, you can find me as guest on Gene's podcast because I'm gonna kick his butt. He needs to start streaming and podcasting more. I'm serious. What is it? Frog's Dream. Hey, go ahead and run that at the bottom of the screen. I'm so serious.
Frogs Dope. Yeah,
I was
Frog's
looking at some
Dream.
of his
Frogs Dope
content,
game.
and a year, 2 years ago, this man had a million. How many views did you have? I forgot how many. It was in the thousands, probably close to 1 million views.
I think it was.
And
I was sitting like at 15,000.
And I was like, hold on, brother. And you're not doing this anymore? And we're retired and we sitting our butts at home? Man, you lost your mind. So behind.
Yeah.
So you find me as a guest on there. If you are going to tune in, please remove your virgin ears because we're military. We try hard not to be vulgar, but I tell you what, Mr. Gene's mouth is. He seems like he's just this cool, calm, collective guy. Don't let it fool you. And I'm right below. I'm right.
Hey, that's
You
the
right
one I'm
there
Not
at.
as
with
vulgar
him.
as he is, but I'm right.
They kept it real clean.
Yeah.
I kept it clean too. Believe me, I kept it clean.
Y'all did good. Eugene, put a plug in. Put a plug in.
Oh, okay. So you can find me on Twitter at frog ff or frogg underscore dreams frogs dream. I'm a huge fan of frogs. There's a whole story behind it, but you can find me on YouTube at Frogs Dope Gaming. Um, I try to bring emphasis not only to military but to young black uh, streamers because there's not too many uh, of black minorities. No, when I say minorities, I'm talking about black minorities because minorities we got our own little section. Black minorities that
You get
are
ready to start a
streaming.
whole nother conversation.
Yeah, because yeah, when you say minorities, I gotta emphasize black minorities. So there you go. That go out there and stream, and there's a group of people that I've been streaming with for, oh my gosh, since probably I've been 2013. There's just so many guys and girls, and we all love very similar things, and that's gaming. A lot of us are military retired or some form of military, so there's a camaraderie there. So uh, I just check us out when we do our thing. I'm trying to bring more light to them and what they do. Um, but I just say, for everybody that wants to have a good time, just you know, come on our show and come in our streams. If you want to send me a personal invite, I primarily play on a PlayStation. So my name is Frog and Pepper. You can find me on PlayStation. FROG dash N dash Pepper PEPPER. Um, and I'm a pretty, you know, laid back guy. Just want everybody to be safe and have fun and just have good conversations. My
Good.
mouth is not as
Thank you.
bad and normally when I talk it's normally bad. When I get on the game it's totally different. That whole military side of me comes out.
Well, I think
It
you
can
know
get
what
kind of
this was like.
reckless.
This was our all male show because we want people to know that we just not speaking to women. We want to hear our brothers and what they have to say to the community because we're not superstars. You know, we don't
Yes.
get the other stuff, but
Hey,
I want to be, huh?
can I say something real quick? In
Yes.
in 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 today's climate, what my observation is that black men are marginalized. Okay, and
Yes.
they're pushing women of color at the expense of men of color because they're afraid of black men with
Yes.
power. That's the
Ooh.
bottom line.
Oh wait,
Yes.
that
Yes.
I need a sip on that. Okay, hold on. Mm, 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 mm.
Totally agree.
So that's it. We're marginalized, and we need more black men to start stepping up and stepping out. The black leaders that we have now, they all have been like homogenized, okay,
Right.
to keep us in line. So we need some other voices out there. We do.
And this is what I want to do. I want to create voice. We wanted to create voices of our people, voices of
Yes.
men and women and mothers and other people, but especially to encourage our black men so that and as we encourage, they can encourage. So those that looked at this, men, women alike, could go back and encourage our brothers. Don't be so bent on beating them down.
Right.
Encourage them.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what state they're in if that one encouraging word may lift them up to a whole different level. That's why I make it my business. If I pass a homeless man on the street, especially my brother, I'm going to say, "Hey, how you doing?" Because you don't know. Everybody passing by, not paying attention, and just that one hello will bring him to another level. So I
Hmm.
Yes.
would like to thank Andre, my son-in-law, Eugene, my brother-in-law, Brazil, for joining us. Trina G, anything else?
Oh no, I just really enjoyed
This is
you
awesome.
all coming
Awesome.
and just being a part of our show because we do want to reach everybody that we can to show them that we are just normal people that go through normal everyday things and we're going to talk about every subject that we can because it's important. I understand there's people out there with the Hollywood status, but this is just people coming straight raw and saying, hey, this is what it is. This is life. We're just like you. We don't have that status and we don't need it. just to share our thoughts and our feelings of the things that's going on today, and even the things that's happen. We don't have to have that status to educate people on the things that were and the things that are. So I think it's just so important that we continue to uplift one another, continue to put, inspire and put everybody, whoever has a brand or whatever, just, be there for them. Now, let me tell you something. Now, don't come to me and ask me. I'm going to be honest. Don't come to me and ask me, hey, can you promote? But then you're giving trash. Let me tell you something. When you do something, make sure you're doing it in excellence.
Yes.
Just don't
Yep.
do it because and then expect people to go and buy into it just because you have that brown melanin in you. No, come out with something good. Show them I put my heart and soul in whatever it is I do. So when they come to you, say I'd rather come to you than go to the other people because you're showing me not only good customer service, but you're giving me good product.
I'm
Absolutely.
going to say this. There's a quote from Oprah Winfrey: "Excellence is the best determinant against racism."
That's right. You put it out there. Excellence. And that's why we show positive. We have three positive Black men: family, careers,
Mm-hmm.
sons. So can't no one say they're not out there. We just gave you just three.
Just three.
Just three. So know that there's more out there that are married, that are taking care of their families, that are doing things in excellence. And that's what we strive for. Even on this show, we just beginning, but we striving to do excellence.
Yes.
So again, I thank you guys for joining
Thank you
Mothers,
guys for doing
Sisters,
that.
and Daughters Coffee and Tea. And Katrina G, you can take us
Hey,
home.
meet us next Saturday for some goodness, some goodness, some goodness. We're always going to bring you some goodness. Okay, so please meet us here again,
There
3
I
o'clock
go.
Eastern Standard Time, for another good topic. Okay, thank you, Eugene. Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Uncle Brazil, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today on Mothers, Sisters, Daughters, Coffee, and Tea. We'll see you
Thanks
guys
for the
later.
invite. Thank you.
Bye.
It's good seeing everybody.